Great clips coming through X last night from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in Michigan. The FBI is doing an investigation on the assassination attempt. Do you trust the Bureau? The question was. Vance says, I don't trust the Bureau leadership, but I certainly think there are a lot of good field agents, guys on the ground. But what the hell was going on? How is that guy ever allowed to be there in the first place? Because I think somebody, whether it's higher up or somebody else involved, really did screw up. There's some things going on with our government that we really have to worry about. Let's listen.
Those flies.
The FBI is doing an investigation on the assassination attempt. Do you trust the Bureau?
I don't trust the Bureau leadership, but I certainly think there are a lot of good field agents, guys on the ground. But what the hell was going on? How was that guy ever allowed to be there in the first place? Because I think somebody, whether it's higher up or somebody else involved, really did screw up.
There's some things going on with our government that we have to really worry about. Did we have enough people? Why didn't we have enough people? Somebody said that a lot of people were put on Biden's detail. The problem is Biden doesn't draw anybody. He draws flies.
The FBI is doing an investigation on the
I never quite figured out, or I still can't, how they can have this guy in their radar, this Thomas Crooks, for so long, not notify the president, not make a decision to the point of him sitting up there and opening fire on him. Nobody ever told Donald that there was even a danger. Huh.
Mentioned it. Nobody said that.
We're monitoring this guy for an hour beforehand.
Yeah.
No one told you not to take the stage?
No, nobody mentioned it. Nobody said there was a problem. And I would have waited for 15. They could have said, let's wait for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, something. Nobody said, I think that was a mistake. How did somebody get on that roof? And why wasn't he reported? Because people saw that he was on the roof. I mean, you had Trumpers screaming. The woman in the red shirt, she was screaming, there's a man on the roof. And then other people said, there's a man on the roof who's got a gun. And that was quite a bit before I walked onto the stage. So you would have thought somebody would have done something about it.
Former President Trump saying for the first time exclusively to Jesse Watters Primetime that no one warned him not to take the stage, even though they knew there was a threat. And it was this guy almost an hour beforehand. The Secret Service under mounting pressure following the assassination attempt of former President Trump on Saturday. 1 week later, we still have very few answers about the shooter, the motive, and the stunning security lapses. Something we have learned, 20-year-old Thomas Crooks likely flew a drone over the fairgrounds in Butler, Pennsylvania, just hours before Trump took the stage in front of tens of thousands of people. Officials say the predetermined path suggests Crooks flew the drone more than once to scope out the event site. At least 4 congressional committees are planning to probe the security failures that allowed him to gain access to the nearby rooftop that he fired from. Republican Senator Josh Hawley says he's heard from multiple whistleblowers.
The idea that you could have all of this time elapse and nobody notices, no law enforcement notices he's on the roof. Whistleblowers tell me that law enforcement were actually on different channels, different radio communication channels. There were multiple different.
We brought that up last week. It's obvious that they weren't all communicating on the same channels. You're telling me that that's really been verified. That's an embarrassment. That is so embarrassing for you guys.
Different channels, and they weren't coordinated.
We need answers. The director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, expected to face tough questions when she testified.
Take a look at my new belt buckle design. Kidding. Happy Sunday morning. Before we get too into this, let's go for a little laugh. This is pretty good. Pre-approved by me. Check it out.
हमारे आपके आगे आने के बाद ही
Cariño de mi corazón.
Here's a better version of Donald Trump last night.
They keep saying he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy.
Talking about Joe Biden doing a last-minute shakeup of the configuration of the Supreme Court. And then following straight after that, they've got Hunter Biden pushing to have his gun and tax cases dismissed. Let's check it out.
Have his tax and gun cases also tossed. He cited the decision in Florida to toss Trump's classified documents case. The Senate Judiciary Committee member Josh Hawley weighed in with Neil on this issue this week. Listen.
I think it's absurd, absolutely absurd. This guy has gotten more sweetheart deals than anybody in America. If he were not Joe Biden's son, he would be in prison as we speak. Remember, this DOJ tried to slip in a plea agreement,
We should do a little, should we go through his laptop again? Let's see which selfie we want to talk about today. How could you ever go and show your face around the White House again is beyond me. This guy is shameless. Oh, my.
Slide it past the court that would basically absolve him of all of his criminal wrongdoing, and only because the judge asked questions in open court did they actually go to trial. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Right there.
I'm sure he's just hoping and praying his father can hold on as president long enough to get pardoned. This guy's a criminal. He belongs behind bars.
Hunter absolutely is a effing criminal. I can't believe it. And he's advising old man Joe. Oh, my dear Lord.
So what are the chances that Hunter's case would get tossed?
When you read the Supreme Court case closely, it doesn't seem to give.
How much money do you got? How much money do you got? You might have to grease a little pockets around here.
Of Hunter any way out. I agree with the senator there that normally Hunter Biden would already be in jail otherwise, except for this sweetheart treatment he's getting from his father's Justice Department. The opinion only gives you immunity if you're the president.
Is it true that Hunter Biden and Prince Harry were seen drinking in Los Angeles the other day together?
And if you're acting in your official capacity as president, Hunter Biden's not the president. All these things he's accused of doing don't involve official presidential activity. He doesn't get any immunity, but it's a sign of how desperate, I'm afraid, Hunter Biden is, just like considering packing the court, just like going after Trump with lawfare is also a sign of desperation.
John, we so appreciate your insight this morning. Thank you for being here.
Good Lord. Like I said, this assassination attempt is going to unite the nation in a way that is going to be unique for our time. It's something special that we're witnessing here, and it's a great time to become excited about politics if you hadn't been in the last little bit. It should give you and restore some sort of faith in humanity, and especially the political system, in which affects pretty much all of us in Western society. Unless you're a sovereign citizen, that is. Now let's go to Pierce Morgan. I like listening to Pierce talk about what happened.
You have written for a couple of years now that he is not well, that he's not all there, he's cognitively in decline, and now all of a sudden Nancy Pelosi realizes it, and Chuck Schumer realizes it, Adam Schiff realizes it. What is your view about what's happening now as they stab him in the back?
They've all, well, A, the treachery is there to be seen, but B, they've all known what Joe Biden's cognitive condition has been like. They've all been around him. I wrote column after column for the New York Post in which I said, I'm sorry, look at this man. You know, if you go back and look at a video of Joe Biden 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, there is no comparison to the man we see today. It's a sad...
Yeah, I agree. I got to agree with Pierce. Like, it's different. He's losing his strength. However, I got to follow up with, show me a speech where Joe Biden actually makes any sense. He's all about virtue signaling and being progressive and clout chasing in the Democratic Party, of course, but most of his speeches are just cringeworthy. I don't feel he's a good speaker. He doesn't make a lick of sense. Like, you're a bullshit artist. Personally, I don't know about you all at home. I like a politician to be direct. Be direct and talk your way out. Not talk around everything and try to put things in perspective for everybody else. Screw that shit. Talk to me straight, Joe. There's quotes of the Bible. Oh, come on, man.
Pretty much now tragic thing that's unfurling of a man who's in cognitive decline, probably has the early onset of dementia, who is barely able to think or speak straight, and he's the President of the United States, leader of the free world, and wants us to believe he can do 4 more years.
And he won't leave. And
yeah. Now his bullshit, if you will, is on full display for everybody.
Putting all the pressure possible from the left, and he won't leave. And guess who's standing with him? The squad, Bernie Sanders, and his former chief of staff. Lastly, I was dying for your perspective. You're in Britain. You're watching this. President Trump's been your friend. You've interviewed him multiple times. You go back before The Apprentice. Your thoughts, can you give us an idea what the world thinks about what's happening?
Honestly, I think that in Britain, if it's just a snapshot of the world, unbelievable shock at what happened. I remember waking up last Sunday morning and just getting a blizzard of messages from all around the world. Incredible shock, and then actually incredible admiration for the way that Donald Trump responded after being shot. The idea that without even knowing there were other shooters out there, that he made himself get up and punch the air and say, fight, 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 in the way that he did. Again, the comparison with Biden, who then was seen yesterday or the day before, barely able to walk down the steps of Air Force One. The comparison is stark. Trump can do a 2-hour show tonight with all his greatest hits. You know, people say he's changed. Maybe he's now looking at life in a different way.
He was happy tonight.
I got to say, he looked about as happy as I've ever seen him tonight. He's a man who thinks...
It reeks when you think about both things happening at once. Joe Biden's decline and the party really in peril and not knowing what to do. The shadow operators, the puppeteers, if you will, behind the scenes, wanting to deal with everything at once. Because if they've got to adapt, because they probably didn't figure Joe was going to decline cognitively the way he has, well, a sniper might be able to fix that. So offing the competition would put the ball back in your court no matter who you put in front of the people, because you could maintain the false narrative that you've been working so hard the past 4 years to set in to the people that are listening to you.
He's going back to the White House, and honestly, the Democrats only have themselves to blame. What have they done in the last year? They've tried to weaponize the justice system against him. They tried to get him slung off ballots. They've tried every sneaky, underhand thing they can do. And I say to my liberal friends, big mistake. Because what you've done with this, you've made him more popular, you've raised him more money, and what the assassination attempt has done is it's actually made a lot of Americans, whether they were pro-Trump or not, think, wow, that was badass. That was ballsy.
Elon Musk is now in Trump's camp. Do you think other people, everyday Americans around or even other leaders around the world, do you think they've might give him another shot, people that have shut him down?
Yeah, look, Donald Trump, as we know, he's not an angel. If he was here now, he wouldn't admit to being an angel, right? He has his faults, he has his problems. I've criticised him as much as I've praised him. But what you can't say about Donald Trump now is he's not, a great survivor. I always say he has the thinnest skin and the thickest skin of anyone I know.
Right.
Thinnest, he'll react to everything and go to DEFCON 3. But the thickest, he soaks up stuff, including, it turns out, I mean, what was his best line tonight? He said, they say I'm trying to, wreck democracy. I took a bullet for democracy.
You have written for a couple of years now that he is not.
I knew it. You remember those two idiots? Those idiots that they get to make a statement in front of the camera, probably for money and the time to misconstrue the news that's coming down the line. Listen to this headline coming to the Daily Beast. Trump shooter Crooks wasn't on the rifle team or bullied, according to the school. So here we go right now. Bethel Park High School officials have contradicted reports that Trump shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks was bullied, threatening, and a member of the school's rifle team. In updated statements posted Saturday, officials said that they have no record of Crooks ever trying out or being dismissed from the rifle team due to character or performance concerns as previously reported. It is possible that Crooks informally attended a practice, took a shot, and never returned, the school said in a statement. However, the school added that they don't have any record of this happening. No doubt. Do you remember when I read that last week? I'm like, what kind of team is that? You got a high school team that he couldn't make it because he was too bad of a shot. It makes no sense. This is a high school team. You train them. We're here to help you get better. A statement also dispelled reports that Crooks made threats of violence against the school, describing Crooks as a quiet, bright young man who generally got along with his teachers and classmates. And according to the school, there was no indication his grades or behavior that he was being bullied. According to our records, Mr. Crooks excelled academically, regularly attended school, and had no disciplinary incidents, including those related to bullying or threats. They added, the school, that it would be wildly irresponsible for them to speculate about Crooks' life outside the school since graduating in 2022. Reports about what Crooks might have been doing before he took a shot at former President Trump at Pennsylvania rally have included that he searched for porn and used a drone to scope out the event.
Would-be assassin continues in Pennsylvania. A live look there at Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, home of a former or now deceased 20-year-old Thomas Crooks. We are now learning how the shooter, Crooks, got his rifle onto the roof of the building where he took the shot at the former president.
Well, he delivered the opening prayer at the Trump rally last week, and then chaos and carnage. Father Jason Sharon is the pastor of the Holy Trinity Ukrainian Catholic Church in Carnegie, Pennsylvania, and was asked to give the benediction by the Trump campaign. We now know what happened. A week later, the prayers continue. Reverend Jason Sharon joins us now. Father, thank you for being with us. It has been a week now. What are your thoughts and reflections as we still try to process what happened?
Well, thank you for having me, Eric. My thoughts and reflections are that this has been an experience where the hand of God enters into the affairs of men, not necessarily to promote Mr. Trump's political platform, but simply it is a case, I think, in point in American history where there is a providential act where the life of a man is spared, and I think it's irrefutable. That day was a special day. People were jovial. It was a wonderful gathering. And the events that happened that day, I think, remind people that the affairs of men are guided by the hand of God.
What did you say, and what were some of your topics when you opened in your prayer?
Don't mean to get overly morbid or inappropriate, but think about how close that was for a moment. in relation to something that happened to John F. Kennedy in the Zapruder film, where you saw his brains go all over the back of that Cadillac, which was traumatic in of itself. Think about how traumatizing watching all the brain matter that would have occurred live on television. How different of a story we would be portraying. How low of a place that we would be. How depressing and controlling that would be. When you recognize something like this and how close it happened, it makes you realize and value your life and others in the moment. His life was spared.
Prayer, giving your opening.
Yeah. So my prayer was simply that, like a green forest is made green by the trees. The trees are made green by the green leaves. And our political polity is, if we want to have a good political polity, a nation that's right ordered, my prayer was that we would begin by having right ordered relationships with God. That our relationships with God would be put right, that our relationships with one another would be put right, and then collectively, our nation would be in right relationship with God, and through that, our world would be made great. So that was my prayer.
And at one point, tell us about, you were with a group of people, and you actually asked them, before this happened, to pray for the former president because people may want to shoot him. What did you tell them?
Yes, that's true. That's true. So I left the stage a few moments before President Trump was to take it. And as I was on the other side of the crowd, opposite where the shooter was, I said to people, my job's over. I've done the prayer, but your job continues. You need to pray because there are people who want to shoot him. And I said it loudly in front of a lot of people. And I think there was a journalist or two around. So it is a matter of record. And I did say it.
Wow. What made you say that? What made you think that at that moment?
I really can't tell you the answer to that. Two things I don't know. Why the Trump campaign called me, of all people, and why I said that. But I just it kind of welled up out of me. But I can't answer the question why I chose to say it. Rather rash and imprudent if you ask me why you would, a priest would say that with Secret Service agents around. But I did say it.
And finally, your thoughts. In a few hours, there'll be another rally again, this time with Vice President nominee J.D. Vance, the first time since last Saturday's. Your hope as we go forward for today and rest of the year.
Well, my hope is that Mr. Vance will look to Mr. Trump's strengths in his first administration of consistently defending Ukraine, defending the right to life here at home. And I just hope that they will continue to advance that in the public square, a solid, robust defense of Ukraine and a solid, robust defense of the right to life.
Reverend Jason.
Will, we're still here, aren't we? You know what? Joy Reid is a Sharpton adjacent race pin at MSNBC. And sadly, she's still somewhat relevant to a dwindling audience, to a disgruntled audience, to people who simply are stuck in that mode. But the fact is, there's no such thing as a white adjacent anything. No such thing as a white adjacent black man, brown man, woman, whatever she wants to call it. Hyperbole is something you do in comedy, in performances. But what this is performative lying to the American people. The good news in some sense, Will, and I'm with you, is that she's becoming more and more irrelevant as her audience and her network dies.
I kind of like that she's saying out loud who they perceive the enemies to be: Christian, white men, and anyone who agrees with that point of view. So